guys, what's going on? It's MassiveJoes RAW review, and I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Awesome raw review for the viewers at home today on one of the most highly anticipated new fat-burning supplements on the market from our good friends at Sparta Nutrition. It is, of course, Hydra Shred in the house. Let's get straight into it, show you guys exactly what's in it, tell you exactly what it's gonna do. Look at the number of ingredients on that nutritional panel. That sure as hell ain't gonna get it done. We're about to go balls deep in this here Sparta Nutrition Hydra Shred. Fortunately, got ourselves a big ass nutritional information panel for the viewers at home. Dilip, go ahead and cut that panel up on the screen. And viewers at home, fasten your seatbelts because we're in for one hell of a ride. We're dealing with, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 active ingredients in this Sparta Nutrition Hydra Shred. We're gonna be here a while, but it's gonna be all worth it, baby. Let's go, starting from the top. Got yourself a serving size, 4.5 grams in one scoop, or 9 grams in 2 scoops. Let's go with the 4.5 gram one scoop. Got yourself about 60 of them 4.5 gram 1 scoop bitches in one of these Hydra Shred bitches, or if you're using the 2 scoop serve, which is what we're about to go balls deep in, got yourself about 30 of them 2 scoop 9 gram bitches in one of these Hydra Shred bitches. In terms of what the 2 scoop 9 gram serving is made up of, and let me just, I just need to put this out here right now, early on in this raw review. The rest of this raw review is gonna be based on a 2 scoop serve, not a 1 scoop. And you can see on the panel, Dilip, throw this up, that the left-hand side of the panel is based on 1 scoop, the right-hand side is based on 2 scoops. We are gonna focus on the 2 scoops, and the reason why we're gonna focus on the 2 scoops is because Sparta Nutrition makes certain claims here in particular on the back of the Hydra Shred, and those claims are based on a 2 scoop serve. So they're kind of, I guess, encouraging us to review this product in a 2 scoop serve. So everything I say from now on in the rest of this review is going to be based on 2 scoops per serve, 9 total grams in a 2 scoop serve. In terms of what the 2 scoop serve 9 grams is made up of, Sparta Nutrition, as they do with all of their products, provide full disclosure, so we can do a quick sum, add up all of the active ingredients and quickly discover there's 3.58 grams of actives spread over 16 active ingredients. That means we're only dealing with 3.58 grams of actives in a 9 gram serve, so only 40% active ingredients, 60% flavors and sweeteners with no artificial colors or dyes whatsoever. That definitely is high. It's definitely towards the higher end, but it's nothing we haven't seen before, particularly with fat loss supplements, because they do tend to contain a lot of nasty tasting ingredients. And this Hydra Shred with 16 active ingredients, there are some pretty nasty tasting ingredients in there. So the fact that they need to use a lot more flavoring and sweetening, 60%, is not really that surprising. And in the end of the day, it's 60% of 9 grams is really not that big a deal. In terms of what the 3.58 grams of actives are made up of, I'm going to try to get through these as quickly as I can, viewers, because there's a lot of active ingredients. Starting from the top, L-carnitine L-tartrate, 2,000 milligrams. This is the tartaric acid salt of L-carnitine. L-carnitine, of course, is a fat transporter. It's going to transport fat from fat cells into the mitochondria of muscle cells, where that fat can be used as a source of energy. Therefore, we call it a fat metabolizer, as do we all other types of carnitine. The efficacious dose of L-carnitine L-tartrate is 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams. We have 2,000 milligrams, so we would go so far as to say it is very, very well dosed. Moving right along to another form of carnitine, this time acetyl L-carnitine. This is L-carnitine with an acetyl group attached, which increases the bioavailability of the L-carnitine. Also acts as a fat transporter similar to L-carnitine L-tartrate, but the acetyl group actually allows acetyl L-carnitine to cross the blood-brain barrier, where it helps with mental focus. Clinical dose of acetyl L-carnitine is also 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams. We have 500, so it's underdosed, but you need to consider that it is in combination with L-carnitine L-tartrate. So we've got 2,500 milligrams of a combination of L-carnitine L-tartrate and acetyl L-carnitine. So from a fat metabolizer perspective, it's very, very well dosed. Moving right along, we then have Garcinia cambogia extract, which has been standardized, which is great to see, standardized extracts. Standardized to 60% hydroxycitric acid, aka HCA. HCA is a real cool ingredient and it inhibits the ATP citrate lyase enzyme, which is responsible for the conversion of glucose into triglycerides, which are a form of fat. It therefore reduces lipid metabolism and acts pretty much as like a fat blocker. Also provides potent appetite suppression effects. The clinical dose of Garcinia cambogia, when it is standardized at 60% HCA, which is what we have here, is 250 to 500 milligrams. We have 250, so we would go so far as to say it's towards the lower end of that clinical dose, but still clinically dosed. We then move on to the first of many stimulants in this Hydra shred, starting with tasteless theacrine, which is standardized for 40% theacrine, but a 150 milligram total dose. Theacrine is a central nervous system stimulant, enhances physical energy, reduces fatigue, boosts psychological performance. Also upregulates dopamine receptors to improve mood and enhance mental focus. Very similar to caffeine, but doesn't cause a crash and you don't build up a tolerance to theacrine, which is fantastic. And also has a little bit of a lesser effect of reducing inflammation caused by strenuous exercise, which is not really too much of a focus for us in this Hydra shred. Clinical dose of theacrine is 25 to 50 milligrams. We have 40% of 150, which gives us 60 milligrams. So we would go so far as to say it's overdosed. Moving right along, we then get into a unique ingredient, vanillin, in a 100 milligram dose. Vanillin is a phenolic aldehyde. It reduces blood cholesterol levels and also acts as a TRPV1 agonist to increase metabolic rate and induce lipolysis, which is the breakdown of fats as a fuel, as a source of energy. Also acts as a mild antioxidant and a very mild anti-inflammatory. The efficacious or clinical dose of vanillin at this point in time is unknown because we haven't really seen anything that kind of tells us how much we need to have. I've seen it in 2 other fat loss supplements before. I'm not going to mention them because we want to focus on the Hydra shred in this raw review. But I've seen it in 2 other fat loss supplements, and both of those supplements dosed it also at 100 milligrams. That's obviously not, a be-all to end-all that 100 milligrams is the clinical or efficacious dose, but that is generally what we're seeing in the industry at the moment for companies that are using this ingredient in a fat loss blend. Moving right along, we then get into our second stimulant and our first source of caffeine, and that is natural caffeine from green tea leaf extract in a 100 milligram dose. Caffeine, of course, a central nervous system stimulant, enhances physical energy, reduces fatigue, and boosts psychological performance. Clinical dose needs to be considered with all the other forms of caffeine in this Hydra shred, and there are a bunch. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to put, you know what, Dilip, go and put on the screen. We're going to do a little caffeine counter because there's a lot of different sources, and I'm just going to kind of add them up. So at this point in time, we're at 100 milligrams. So get the caffeine counter up. 100 milligrams total caffeine is where we're at this point in time. Moving right along, we then move into a banaba leaf extract, which has been standardized for 2% corosolic acid. Corosolic acid mimics insulin and shuttles glucose into skeletal muscle. It induces GLUT4 translocation, which is going to improve glucose transportation within cells and improve insulin sensitivity. It also increases the expression of PPAR alpha and PPAR gamma, which is going to help reduce total fat mass. It also inhibits pancreatic lipase enzyme, which is going to block fat absorption. The clinical dose of corosolic acids is about 10 milligrams. We have 2% of 60 milligrams, so we're talking just 1.2 milligrams of corosolic acid in a 2-scoop dose of this Hydra shred. So we would have to say that, unfortunately, although the effects of corosolic acid when it's dosed properly are fucking amazing, unfortunately in this Hydra shred it is significantly, I'll go so far as to say severely underdosed. Moving right along, we then get into one of my favorite fat loss ingredients at this point in time. It is the Grains of Paradise seed extract, also known as Paradoxin. Paradoxin is the registered trademarked version. They're not using the registered trademarked version, but it is still Grains of Paradise extract, and it has been standardized to 15% 6-paradol, which is the active ingredient. Now, 6-paradol is an antioxidant that stimulates the transformation of white adipose tissue, aka white fat, into brown adipose tissue, aka brown fat, and then triggers the activation of that brown adipose tissue to cause thermogenesis. So this 6-paradol is a thermogenic ingredient. It's going to increase our body's production of heat, and the way that it does it is through getting more brown adipose tissue, more brown fat, which is what our body uses to generate heat. Very, very cool ingredient. Going to increase whole body energy expenditure through thermogenesis. The clinical dose of 6-paradol is 40 milligrams and above. We have 15% of 50 milligrams, so we only have 7.5 milligrams. So unfortunately, man, as much as I love 6-paradol, in this Hydra shred, it is significantly underdosed. We then move on to another stimulant, theobromine, in a 50 milligram dose. Theobromine is the bitter alkaloid of the cacao plant. It's a central nervous stimulant, similar to caffeine, but about 10 times weaker than caffeine. It also acts as a heart stimulant, it dilates blood vessels, and works as a very weak diuretic. The efficacious dose of theobromine is 500 milligrams. We only have 50 milligrams, so we would go so far as to say that it is severely underdosed, but it is a stimulant, it is a central nervous system stimulant, so it needs to be considered with all of the other stimulants in this Hydra shred that we're about to get seriously stuck into. Moving right along, we then get caffeine anhydrous, the second form of caffeine in this Hydra shred and the third stimulant. 50 milligram dose, caffeine, of course, a central nervous system stimulant. The clinical dose needs to be considered with all the other forms of caffeine. Dilip, go ahead and throw another 50 milligrams on the caffeine counter. I believe we are now at 150 total milligrams of caffeine. Moving right along, we then get into another source of caffeine and another stimulant, dicaffeine malate in a 50 milligram dose. This is caffeine ionically bonded to malic acid. It yields 73% caffeine. It has a longer lasting stimulatory effect than caffeine anhydrous, prevents post-workout crash, and the malic acid aspect of dicaffeine malate also helps improve digestion and avoid gastrointestinal upset when you have too much caffeine. The clinical dose, once again, needs to be considered with all other forms of caffeine. Dilip, go ahead and throw 73% of 50 milligrams, which is going to be like 36.5-ish, let's go 36.5. Throw that on the caffeine counter down here. I think we're now at 186.5 if my calculations are correct. Moving right along, we then get into another stimulant. Another source of caffeine, yerba mate leaf extract in a 50 milligram dose. Yerba mate yields caffeine, theophylline, and theobromine, and a whole bunch of other shit. But if it's not standardized, we're really just guessing, and this yerba mate is not standardized for anything. We do know that yerba mate yields about 1% caffeine by extract weight. So we've got 50 milligrams of yerba mate leaf extract. That's going to give us just another 0.5 milligrams of caffeine. Throw that on down there. We must now be at 187 total milligrams of caffeine, including the yerba mate. Moving right along, we then get into guarana seed extract in a 50 milligram dose. This is very similar to yerba mate, yields caffeine, theophylline, and theobromine, along with a whole bunch of other shit. But once again, if it's not standardized for any of those other things, we can't really comment. We do know that guarana seed extract yields about 5% caffeine by weight. So 5% of 50 milligrams, throw down another 2.5. How's the maths? How's the maths on me? Brain working overtime in this raw review. Another 2.5. So we're at 189.5 milligrams of caffeine. And if I'm correct, that is it for the caffeine. That's all the sources of caffeine. And we currently sit at like just under 200 milligrams of caffeine, 189.5. So now we can discuss the clinical or efficacious dose of caffeine. As you guys would know, it is definitely a personal preference type situation, but we do generally, especially with fat loss supplements, we like to see anywhere between 150 up to about 300 milligrams. We've got 189.5 milligrams, so we would say that is really in the sweet spot for total caffeine content, and it's coming from a whole bunch of different sources: natural sources, synthetic sources, extract sources, sustained release, all different types of caffeine in here, but 189.5 total milligrams of caffeine. Moving right along, we're almost there, viewers. 3 ingredients left. Green coffee bean extract, green coffee bean seed extract, as a matter of fact, in a 50 milligram dose. Green coffee bean yields chlorogenic acid, and chlorogenic acid is a glucose modulator, which reduces the release of glucose into the bloodstream and going to help regulate your blood sugar level. Therefore, it's going to inhibit fat absorption and increases insulin sensitivity if it's dosed high enough. Unfortunately, this green coffee bean extract is not standardized for chlorogenic acid, so we really don't know how much chlorogenic acid we're getting. We can make an assumption and assume most green coffee bean extracts are standardized for 50% chlorogenic acid. So let's just make that assumption. Let's give Sparta Nutrition the benefit of the doubt and say that it is standardized for 50% chlorogenic acid. The clinical dose of chlorogenic acid is 50 milligrams to 100 milligrams for those kind of fat loss effects. Definitely not for increasing insulin sensitivity. It needs to be much, much higher dose, but that's not what it's really in here for. It's in here for the glucose modulating effect. 50 to 100 milligrams clinical dose. If this is standardized at 50% of a 50 milligram dose, we're dealing with 25 milligrams. So either way, even with benefit of the doubt, it is quite significantly underdosed. Moving right along, we then get into Cercium oligophyllum. Now this is a cool ingredient that we haven't seen for a whole bunch of time. This was one of the, and I'm going to show you guys my age here. Not necessarily my age, but how damn long I've been doing this shit. Cercium was one of the key ingredients in the OG Oxy Elite Pro. The original Oxy Elite Pro capsules that like set the market on fire back, man, it'd have to be going back like at least 8 years now, I reckon. The original Oxy Elite Pro. Also had some other cool shit in there that's completely illegal now, such as DMAA. But Cercium was one of the key ingredients in the original Oxy Elite Pro. I actually haven't seen it in the industry for like, oh man, at least 5-6 years. So I was surprised to see Sparta Nutrition bring it back. It is a very cool ingredient. It's actually a beta-2 adrenergic receptor agonist, which acts to increase CAMP, cyclic adenosine monophosphate, which is going to boost your base metabolic rate and increase the oxidation of fatty acids, a very, very effective fat loss ingredient. It also works synergistically with caffeine to promote fat loss via lipolysis. The clinical dose of Cercium, we really don't know because firstly, it's only been studied in rats, hasn't had any human studies that I'm aware of at this point in time. And secondly, it really hasn't been used enough by supplement companies for us to know what an effective dose is. Back when USP Labs used it in the original Oxy Elite Pro, it was part of a proprietary blend. So we didn't even know how much of the Cercium extract they used. It was just in there with all the other shit that they never told anybody how much of each of the shits was in there because it was prop blend going back 8, 9, 10 years ago when prop blends were acceptable in the industry. Now they're definitely not acceptable. Everyone wants to know exactly what you're getting and how much of each ingredient through full disclosure. So we really can't comment on the 50 milligram dose of cerium other than to say that it's a cool ingredient and it's in there. Moving right along to the final ingredient. Now this, I am very happy to see the cocoa butyrol come in this Hydra shred from Sparta Nutrition, because I've been waiting for a company to use this product for some time now, because I've been aware of this product for some time now, and it makes me very, very excited. So I'm very happy to be able to talk to you guys about it as part of the Sparta Nutrition Hydra shred. Cocoa butyrol is a registered trademarked ingredient. It's owned by a company called Genabolics that do some really cool shit with some really cool ingredients. This cocoa butyrol is standardized for 50% cocoa alkaloids. It yields theobromine and ECGC, some epicats in there. Not really that interested in those. What I am interested in are the cocoa alkaloids, in particular N-coumarol dopamine and N-caffeol dopamine. Your cocoa alkaloids. These are really, really cool alkaloids. They act as beta-2 adrenergic receptor agonists, similar to cerium. So they're going to increase CAMP, also similar to cerium, to boost metabolic rate and increase oxidation of fatty acids. Very, very cool ingredient, very, very cool alkaloids. And I suspect that we're going to see cocoa butyrol appear in, man, if it doesn't appear in like every single properly put together fat loss supplement moving forward from this point in time, I would be very, very surprised. It is like, it's the shit. I'm going to pop a link in the description box down below to cocoa butyrol for those of you who want to learn more about it. I don't want to go too far into depth, I just want to say that it really excites me through the fact of these alkaloids being beta-2 adrenergic receptor agonists. Clinical dose of cocoa butyrol is 10 to 20 milligrams. We have 20 milligrams, so we would go so far as to say it is a delicious dose of cocoa butyrol. Got yourself about 60% artificial flavors, sweeteners, no artificial colors. And that's what's in it. That was actually not too bad. We got through 16 ingredients in just over 20 minutes. I thought it was going to take damn near half hour. I'm happy with my efforts. So very, very comprehensive fat loss supplement we have here, viewers at home. Some ingredients clinically dosed, some overdosed, some underdosed. A lot of the ones that underdosed need to be considered to work synergistically with a lot of other ingredients. There's a whole lot of shit going on in this Hydra shred, and I could talk about the nutritional information panel and the synergism between the ingredients, so on and so forth, for probably another 30 minutes. But I'm not going to bore you with that. I'm going to get to what it's missing in terms of what we generally like to see in all-out, full, comprehensive fat loss formulas. The first thing is definitely something more for thermogenesis. The grains of paradise, although it's in here, is quite underdosed. Just going to get my notes back up. Severely underdosed. So we've got 7.5 milligrams of 6-paradol when we need 40. So definitely something more for thermogenesis. It's missing. They could have used like a Capsi Max or a Capsi Ultra, or just a proper clinical dose of 6-paradol would have got it done. Something to assist with metabolic output. Forskolin is a big one that's missing in this formula. They do have theobromine, but it's nowhere near a full clinical dose. Even when you add the naturally occurring theobromine in the yerba mate and the guarana, it's just not getting it done from an increasing metabolic output perspective. So definitely some forskolin. And then finally, something to assist with stabilizing insulin. The green coffee bean extract, not enough chlorogenic acid. We really need a full 50 to 100 milligrams of chlorogenic acid to deal with that stabilizing insulin piece from a fat loss perspective. So definitely kind of missing that. But apart from that, I mean, one of the most comprehensive fat loss formulas that we've seen on paper to this point in time. I would go so far as to say thus far, because that's what I say, but very comprehensive fat loss formula on paper. In terms of how it tastes, how it mixes, comes in 3 flavors. Comes in cold brew coffee, aka cold drip coffee. Comes in mango nectar. Comes in strawberry kiwi. I have tried both strawberry kiwi and mango nectar. I definitely preferred strawberry kiwi. I have yet to try the cold brew coffee, and there's two reasons why I'm yet to try it. Firstly, I'm a coffee snob, so I'm very particular when it comes to my coffee. I'm a massive coffee drinker. I'm a massive fan of cold, we call it in Australia, we call it cold drip coffee, not cold brew coffee, but they are one and the same thing. I'm a massive fan of cold drip coffee. So I've kind of avoided it because of that fact, but I also wanted to do it here for you guys on camera as part of this raw review, was bust open a fresh new tub of this cold brew coffee so that you can see my initial reaction, and I'll tell you straight up whether it's good, not good, so on and so forth. But I do just want to just put it out there that I'm a coffee snob. Let's do this. Got myself a brand new tub of this Sparta Nutrition Hydra Shred in the cold brew coffee flavor. Put the lid off this bitch. Bro punch. You know what? I would bro punch, but I know that these tubs are filled right to the top. So if I do bro punch this in, I'm gonna get Hydra Shred all over the fucking table, and it's gonna make one hell of a mess. So I'm not gonna bro punch. I'm gonna carefully peel the lid off, and you can see what I mean, that it is like, you know, almost filled to the brim. I'm gonna take myself, I'm gonna do how I've been taking it. So I've been taking the 2-scoop dose in a glass of water. So infamous MassiveJoes double wall glass here, and that's about how much water I've been taking it in. They actually, Sparta don't provide mixing directions as such. It says, as a dietary supplement, take 1 scoop with breakfast or before morning cardio. Once you tolerate that dosage, add an additional scoop 6 to 8 hours later. That we're doing 2 scoops straight in this bitch, but it doesn't tell me how much water. So I've just been doing 2 scoops in about this much water. It's about, I reckon there's about 8 to 10, probably closer to like 9 ounces of water, I'd say, in this cup, because it is like an oversized double wall glass. So I'm gonna take 2 scoops of this Sparta Nutrition Hydra Shred, drop this bitch in this bitch, and let it rain, let it rain. Probably a good point at this point in time, while I mix this up, I'm just gonna mix it up just off camera real quick. Not that I'm hiding anything from you guys, but I want to talk to you at the same damn time. The scoops are about 10% oversized. So if you take 2 scoops, it's supposed to weigh 9 grams, it weighs about 10 grams. So just keep that in mind, is that the scoops are a little bit too big. So you don't want to be doing like a level scoop. You want to be doing like, let me just show you guys, like about that much of a scoop. So you want to leave a little, like a little bee's dick of space between the top of the level scoop and the actual powder to get 4.5 grams a scoop. And then if you're doing 2 scoops, that'll give you 9 grams. So don't do a full level scoop, because you're going to overshoot by about 10%. Unless you want to overshoot by 10%, in that case, do whatever the you want to do. All right, few flicks of the wrist. I'm going to show you how this Sparta Nutrition Hydra Shred mixes. I'm going to refresh my memory on how this Hydra Shred tastes, man. All right, that's enough. I think we can kind of get the point at this point in time. As you guys can see, it mixes pretty well. There's no floaters, there's nothing kind of floating on top or floating in the mix. The one thing that is gonna happen is it is gonna settle. And this is something that you can kind of see it happening there at the moment. I'm just gonna put it down while I talk to you about this. This is something that if you're the sort of person like myself, who likes to, you know, get up in the morning and sip on your fat burner rather than like just, you know, throw it down like you would maybe a pre-workout or something of that nature. You like to sip on your fat burner. You do need to keep in mind that it is going to do this. It is going to settle, and you're going to get a whole lot of active ingredients down the bottom there, and not a whole lot in the actual in suspension in the actual liquid. So if you are the sort of person that wants to sip on that fat burner, I recommend that you take one of these with you, and before each sip, go and do this. Just to mix it up, sip, mix it up, sip, mix it up, sip, or else you're gonna get a whole lot of active ingredients down the bottom of your glass, and it's gonna hit you like a fucking freight train with your very last sip. Okay, for the very first time. Let's see how this cold brew coffee tastes, man. Woo! I said I'm a coffee snob. And I'm definitely a coffee snob because for me, like that's tough. That's a hard thing to drink. It's always a risk when I do this for the first time on camera because I can't lie to you guys either. Yeah, nah, for me that's definitely not getting it done. You know what it tastes like? It tastes like the sort of shit that I religiously steer away from as a coffee snob, and that is instant coffee. It tastes like a very sweet instant coffee. So if you like instant coffee, like the sort of coffee that you take with a spoon out of a jar and you throw it in hot water and you mix it up, you probably like it. But for me, I actually like proper coffee. Being half Italian, it's kind of in my blood. That doesn't get it done for me at all. That being said, the strawberry kiwi is really good. The mango is not quite as good, but still quite good. The cold brew coffee for me personally just doesn't get it done. But if I had to rank the flavors, that would be the flavor that I rank them in: strawberry kiwi, then mango, then cold brew coffee. I have been told as well by the brothers at Sparta that they are working on 4 new flavors at the moment for Hydra Shred. I don't know what they are. I actually hit them up on Facebook Messenger before I came in to shoot this raw review, but they haven't gotten back to me. They must be sleeping in the US at the moment. But they said 4 new flavors coming, but we just don't know what they are. Final thing that I will say, actually, you know what I forgot? Blender ball is not required. I got so distracted by trying the cold brew coffee for the first time, I forgot to tell you guys whether the blender ball is or is not required. The one thing that I will disclaim that with is, as I mentioned, if you like to sip on it, you are going to need to give it a couple of stirs before every sip, just to make sure that those ingredients don't settle down the bottom and give you a nasty surprise with your last slip. Overall, taste is quite pleasant, provided that you do continue to mix it up. If you get, and I did this the first few times that I tried it, was I didn't stir it up and I sipped on it, and then I had all these actives like settle down the bottom of the glass and drank that, and it almost blew my head off. That was not a good experience at all. But blender ball is not required. Flavors are quite pleasant. Strawberry, kiwi, mango, cold brew coffee is my personal ranking of the flavors that exist at the moment. In terms of the effects, as I do with all fat loss supplement raw reviews, I have to point out that if you're not in caloric deficit, this product ain't gonna do shit apart from taste good. You need to be in caloric deficit to actually lose body fat. If you're not there, you can't diet or exercise sufficiently to put yourself into caloric deficit. Do not waste your money on this Hydra Shred or any other fat loss supplement, because it's not gonna work. Now, in terms of the effects, for someone who is in caloric deficit, this is a very, very strong fat burner, viewers at home, especially in the 2-scoop dose. Very, very strong. One of the strongest on the market, in my personal opinion. And I say that, but I just want to disclaim that because I'm not talking about a blow your head off caffeine type feeling. We're dealing with less than 200 milligrams of caffeine in a 2-scoop dose. So it's not a stupid amount of caffeine that's going to give you a transient effect of being very strong and then drop you on your ass an hour later when you start crashing off all that caffeine. It's not that at all. It is a very intense yet stable energy ride that you get with the Hydra Shred. You don't have any sort of crash or come down off it, which is very, very good and probably attributable to the fact that there's not that much caffeine, in particular caffeine and hydrogen in there. It's a blend of different stimulants that act over different half-lives and different times that allows it to come on very quickly, be very strong, very intense, but very stable at the same time. Appetite suppression is ridiculous. Very, very strong appetite suppression. When I've been taking it, I mean, I literally forget to eat. That's how strong the appetite suppression is. So if you're the sort of person that struggles with appetite when you're trying to get into caloric deficit and you're just hungry all the fucking time, very, very good supplement for you because of that very strong enhanced appetite suppressing effect. Decent thermogenesis. Even though the 6-paradol is severely underdosed, you do still feel like hot and you get a sweat on after you've taken the Hydra Shred. So the thermogenesis is definitely something that I noted with this Hydra Shred as well. I mean, apart from that, you know, a lot of the other effects in theory are going to work quite well. The 2.5 grams of carnitine spread across L-carnitine or tartrate acetyl-L-carnitine, you know, is definitely going to work in terms of fat metabolism. You've got, you know, your other active ingredients that are properly dosed in there as well that are going to do what they need to do and, you know, enhance your rate of fat loss. But, you know, the most important thing, as always, guys, is that you are in caloric deficit. And those really are kind of the 3 things that I noticed with this Hydra Shred that kind of make it stand out from other products. That intense, stable energy, that very, very strong appetite suppression, and that feeling of heat, that enhanced thermogenesis is really kind of something quite cool and quite unique to this Hydra Shred. In terms of side effects, if you're someone who's sensitive to stimulants, you're definitely going to want to start with 1 scoop, not 2, and just see how you go with your tolerance to them, because as I mentioned, it is a very, very strong fat burner. The combined stimulant effect, not just with the caffeine, but with, you know, your theacrine in there, your other stimulants that you have in there as well, is a very strong combined stimulant effect. So don't just look at the caffeine and go, less than 200 milligrams, I'm gonna take 3 fucking scoops. There's a whole lot of other stimulants in there that work in conjunction with the caffeine that make it a very strong fat burner. So if you are sensitive to stimulants and you know that you are sensitive to stimulants, definitely start with 1 scoop and then work up from there. In terms of stackability, obviously it's going to stack with things where the gaps are that we went through after the nutritional information panel. So you can definitely, although the thermogenesis is quite pronounced, you can definitely stack it with something that's going to boost up thermogenesis. Definitely stack it with something that's going to boost up your metabolic output, and definitely stack it with something that's going to take care of stabilizing insulin. That's really kind of, you know, the only stuff that you would stack it with, but you don't really need to stack it with anything because it is very comprehensive. It's kind of got all bases covered, although a lot of them aren't clinically dosed covered or efficaciously covered. It does have a lot of those bases covered. The final thing I will say is in terms of price and value for money. In the Australian market, we're looking at $79.95 for 60 scoops, which is 30 serves in a 2-scoop serve. So, I mean, it is expensive. You know, most fat burners in the Australian market, you know, at that $79.95, you're looking at like 1 scoop serves and you're getting 60. So you're getting kind of half the amount of serves with this Hydra Shred because you really do need to do the two scoop serve, the 2 scoop dose. So you're looking at $79.95 for 30 true serves. So $2.67 per serve. It really is one of the most expensive fat burners on the Australian market, but it is one of those situations where you get what you pay for. You've got 16 active ingredients. You've got one of the most comprehensive formulas that we've seen with a fat loss supplement that really, the gaps that we've identified, we're really kind of nitpicking with those gaps. You know, so it is one of those situations where you get what you pay for. If you want to pay a little bit more and get a comprehensive fat burner that does have a lot of the bases covered with fat loss supplementation, I mean, Hydra Shred's going to get it done. You're just going to have to pay a little bit more for it. But guys, if you're in the market for a very strong, very comprehensive fat loss formula, you have to go out and get yourself some of this Sparta Nutrition Hydra Shred. Guys, hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn your post notifications on, both on your mobile, your cell phone, and your desktop PC so you don't miss a beat when it comes to the MassiveJoes YouTube channel. And guys, that is MassiveJoes RAW review on the all-new Sparta Nutrition Hydra Shred in the house. MassiveJoes! And I'm coming to you from MassiveJoes.com. Stay